Hello, and thank you for joining us for this episode of the Marketing Guides for Small Business podcast. My name is Ian, and I am joined by Paul. And Ken actually has pre-recorded his answers because he's unable to be with us today. But we are your marketing guides for small business. So today we understand that not every small business has a huge marketing budget that they wish they could have. But that shouldn't stop them from laying the groundwork for growth and for generating valuable leads and for investing in the right kind of marketing. So in this episode, we're going to explore the marketing strategies, tactics, and activities that businesses with a smaller budget can invest wisely in. Remember, it's crucial to start at the level that's right for your business and gradually build upon it. By implementing these proven strategies and techniques, you can start to generate revenue and reinvest it into bigger and better marketing campaigns as you go, accelerating your business growth. So let's dive in and lay a foundation for the success in your marketing journey with the Marketing Guides for Small Business and this exceptional topic. So we're going to start off. This is a question that I posed to Ken, and we have a recording from him. But the question was, let's start off with a vital question for this topic, which is, should a business have a marketing budget? Even if it's a small budget, what's a good starting budget for a small business?
All right. Well, yeah, every business should have a marketing budget, even if it is small. And really, I think the thing that always gets me is, people make investment in equipment to be able to do their jobs. They make investments in physical buildings and pay utilities to be able to have a place of business to either have customers come to or to operate out of, to store their products, or vehicles or whatever. And yet they don't do the same thing when it comes to marketing. And yet marketing is the lifeblood of a business. If you aren't getting business coming in to your business and creating opportunities so that you can close sales and generate revenue, you have no business. Word of mouth is great. And yeah, if you're lucky enough to operate with just pure word of mouth and you're content with that, maybe you don't need a marketing budget. God forbid, I hope nothing ever happens where that referral source turns off. But if it does, or for 90% of the other businesses that are out there or more, you need a marketing budget. I think a good place to start is really, to think about 10 to 15 to maybe even 20% of your revenue, depending on your revenue growth goals. For many businesses, that probably could equate to starting out anywhere from, $500 a month to, $2,000 a month for a starting marketing budget. Now these are, this is going to be for businesses that are less than $1 million. And obviously $500 a month, is really probably more startup, and you're not going to get a whole lot for that. But, you do need to think about how you're putting together your budget. It just floors me. I'm going to say it again. If you pay rent or you pay utilities or you buy equipment to run and operate your business, why the heck aren't you making that same level of commitment and investment in a marketing budget? And if you don't have a marketing budget, you can't move forward with the other critical things that I know Paula is going to be talking about here in just a second. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and Ken raised some really great points there. I think the first point that he raised is really valuable. Like, there was a time when businesses used to invest in yellow pages or catalogs or printed brochures more than they do today. And that was a budget item that they had. And if you have a brick and mortar business, you're going to have to upkeep that actual place of business because you want it to be welcoming to your clients, and you want them to feel good about it when they come in, because that actually reflects on the quality of the products or services that you sell. So the same is true now of digital marketing. You absolutely need to invest in it, and you need to have a plan and a budget that you stick to as a starting point so that you can invest consistently, because consistency is one of the biggest areas that a lot of businesses falter on from a marketing perspective. They'll invest in fits and spurts, but they don't consistently market their businesses. So, Paul, any thoughts on budget before we move on?
Yeah, well, I think part of it goes back if you've been in business for a while. When the internet and social media first came along, it basically was free, and now it's not. That has changed, and I think there's this perception that social media is free, and it's they shouldn't need to make an investment in digital marketing, and I think that's changing, but I think there is kind of that perception out there to some degree.
Yeah, and that's a great point, Paul. I mean, it's never been free. It's always cost you time and energy and resources.
Right.
But yeah, you're right. Like that has never changed. And I think one of the missing ingredients that businesses often forget about, business owners, right, is that they may have maybe at one point they did some of their own social posting if they were small enough, right? Um, or maybe they have a receptionist or somebody in their business who has a tiny bit of that responsibility within the business to do it. There's a couple of things that a business owner should consider, though, is first of all, what's the opportunity cost of taking away that person from what their core responsibilities are? And then the second, because there's always a cost to that, right? Like a business owner shouldn't really be focusing on social media. They should be focusing on garnering new business and running their business. And the same is probably true with a personnel in your business, is that they should be entirely focused on what their job responsibilities are. And then the other part of that equation, I think, and I think you'd agree with this, Paul, is, just because I hear this a lot, but just because somebody might be young doesn't make them a social media marketer. It means they are a social media user, probably, because most young people are into social media, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they understand how to present a brand and also to influence people to grow relationships and buy from you over time. And so I think those are two, but I think the social media point that you bring up is so important, because that is the one that people gravitate towards, like, oh, I can do it, it's free. And truthfully, for a business to get exposure now, it's not free anymore. You have to pay for ads on Facebook, Instagram, the other social channels in order to get visibility, because those channels want to get paid for businesses to get that exposure.
Yeah, and that's a good point. There's this perception that the younger generation just somehow magically knows all this stuff, and they don't.
Yeah. Yeah. It's different being a marketer of on social media than it is to be a user. That's for sure.
Correct.
Well, Paul, we're all big proponents of strategy first. Why is this important, and what are some ways small businesses can invest strategically without paying big bucks, instead of just going for the cheapest option? Why should they look at strategy first?
Well, because if you don't have a strategy, you're just going to kind of be taking a shotgun approach, so like throwing mud on the wall and seeing what sticks. And that, in the long run, that can be really expensive, So you have to do some market research, know where your target audience is, what platforms they're on. Because if you're in an industry where your target audience isn't on Facebook, for instance, or they're not going to, and I use the like a accountant as an example. I don't know how many people are going to go to Facebook to look for an accountant. I'm not saying you shouldn't have a presence there, but you probably don't want to spend a lot of money there, because it's just going to be a waste. But some of the things that a small business can do, especially a startup, if they don't have a lot of money, because money is finite, educate yourself, because this kind of goes back to your point that time is not unlimited. So it takes time to learn this stuff and implement it. And is that time better spent building your business, and letting someone else do these things? But educate yourself, read books like Duct Tape Marketing, by John Jantsch, Marketing Made Simple by Don Miller. And that will help you understand about strategy and why it's important, and have a marketing plan. It goes back to what I said about knowing where your target audience is, what platforms they're on, and just as important, where they're not, so you're not wasting money. And you have to have goals, and you can do a lot of this work yourself, I suppose, but again, you're going to be spending time doing this instead of working within your business. There's a lot of low-hanging fruit out there, like reviews, Google reviews, get reviews, that things like that'll help. One of the disadvantages that you're at if you're a startup is, we always say that email marketing, the power is in the list, but if you're just starting out, you probably don't have a list. So you're gonna have to build that list. You're gonna have to invest in lead magnets. I'm not going to get too deep in the woods, but doing things that people are willing to give you their email address for, so that you can collect those email address and build a list. And these what we call high impact, low cost tactics, like just asking for Google reviews, things like that can help. Your Google business profile, make sure that that's claimed and complete, and measure your efforts and results. And at some point you are going to want to, maybe you have a consultation with a marketing agency and they say, okay, you need to do this and this and this. And then you can try to implement some of that yourself. But at some point you're going to want to actually hire someone that this is what they do. Just like, if you don't know how to put in a retaining wall, are you going to try to do it yourself, or are you going to hire someone that knows what they're doing? It's the same kind of thing.
Yeah. When we bought our house, we had a really nice walkway with steps. And what was interesting was, after a year of winter and summer heat and cold, we learned that the owner did it themselves, and they were not, educated in how to build these steps. They look good on the surface, but they fell apart really quick. And of course that can happen too. If you, even if you, this is one of the arguments I hear a lot of is, well, I took an undergrad in marketing, in college or university, 30 years ago, 20 years ago. So that makes me educated in marketing. But I think it's really important to, find the resources. And if you have to educate yourself, count the cost of that. Like you said, Paul, one of the ways to count the cost too is, look at what the responsibilities or activities are that have to be done in your business, and look at what only you as the business owner can do. Because, the things that only you as a business owner can do are probably high leverage activities. And marketing might not be one of those. And so it might behoove you to find some help that can do that. But of course, those books you said, Paul, are fantastic books. We read them, as experts in the industry, because we love to continue to hone our skills and get better and better at them. And some of these guys are fantastic resources. One of the things, that may not be obvious to people, though, is, the reason that a plan too is really important is it forces you to do research. So you use the example of, spending time on Facebook, right? Investing your time and resources and energy into doing stuff on Facebook. But it's the research that will tell you whether your target audience is there or not. And if they're there, great. If they're not, then you should be focusing your time and energy somewhere else. But if you haven't done that research, how are you going to know? Right. So I thought that point was really good, Paul.
Yeah. And, the other thing is, don't want to get too off track here, but, if you're a startup and you need a website, you say, well, I can do that myself. And you probably can, between WordPress and these page builders, it makes it easy to build a website. But what you probably don't understand or don't realize is there's a lot of technical things from an SEO perspective and a visibility perspective and a Google ranking perspective that you don't know how to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And even from a purely marketing standpoint, right? If you don't understand what a buyer's journey is, or how, how somebody, the decisions that someone is making when they come to your website that will help lower the barriers and help them move to action. Those things are really vital to have on your website. And rarely do lay people in the, who don't really understand that. They may be able to pick up the technical skills, but if they're building a website that's not going to resonate with their audience and move them to action, then even if you happen to be able to somehow attract people, you have enough SEO elements in play that it starts to attract people, or you use ads to attract them to your site. Without that, you're just going to be spending a lot on the attraction part without the engagement and the conversion part.
That's true.
So next question was for Ken. What are some of the most effective marketing strategies that can be implemented on a small budget?
And there's actually a two-part answer from him. So,
Okay, this is a topic I absolutely love, and that is, how can you start out with a small budget, and what things should you consider doing to make that initial marketing investment? I'm a huge fan of bootstrapping your business. I want businesses to think about, how can I invest a little bit of money, get a return on investment, and grow my business so that I can take more of that money, invest a little bit more, continue to grow your business. So, really there are so many low-hanging fruit opportunities that need to be done the right way, but they can be very, very powerful. The first off is, customer reviews. Getting customer reviews and testimonials, I can't tell you how critical it is. And responding to reviews. A lot of people freak out when they get a bad review. That's not the end of the world. You need to respond to every single review, because that actually can provide social proof that you pay attention, that you care, that you're willing to. Look, everybody knows that everybody will have an off day here or there. So if you can show people you're willing and committed to make it right, I think that's great. Reviews have a huge impact, especially the critical review sites. With Google, Yelp, industry specific sites. If you're an attorney, if you're a realtor, if you're a medical professional, if you're in the, travel or food segments, there are so many different key directories, but Google is probably the one I would say most businesses really need to start with first. Now, in order to do that, you need to make an investment in your Google business profile. And optimizing that, because that's going to be that first level of SEO. The reality is 60 to 70% of all clicks or phone calls happen from businesses that are found on the Google Map results. Only 3 businesses show up on the Google Map results, for any given search. Now, there are paid ads, so you may get a 4th, but the organically listed. And so that doesn't happen by chance. There are a lot of things that go on there, but, focusing on, your Google business profile, in conjunction with getting Google reviews and responding to every Google review. And we've got systems that make this easy. This isn't rocket science, but it is something that has to be done right and in a disciplined way. And somebody who's staying up to date with what's happening. The next thing that I think every business needs to look at is referral marketing. Do you have a referral program in place? Have you built a strategic partnership with a group of businesses who refer you? Do you need to provide an incentive for people to refer you? Even if you don't need to, should you? Because does that help facilitate the process? Again, it's like, if not every business can take a monetary payment for a referral. Okay, make a donation to their charity of choice, but set it up, formalize it. Don't just let it happen by chance. Come up with a real program. I think, The other things that I think are great potential starting points are text message marketing and email marketing. If you have a list, you own that list, and that is incredibly valuable. And so, growing that list, getting your past and current customers to come back into your place of business more frequently, giving them a reason to spend more money while they're there, is going to have massive impacts on your business. And as they have success and they experience your business, hopefully they're going to share the word, through social media or put a formal referral program in place. We've got a viral text referral system that gamifies the process where people, when they join the text list, they also have an opportunity to earn, rewards and incentives by referring, the business and getting people to sign up on the text list toward, points that they can redeem to claim certain benefits or rewards. So I think that's absolutely critical. A database reactivation campaign is such a great idea. It's maybe the very first thing that I think any business needs to do if you have a list. Do you have a list? I bet you do. Is it usable? Probably not. So work with somebody who can help you take the information you have about your customers, turn it into something that's actionable, turn it into a list that you can use for email marketing, for text marketing, for database reactivations, to get customers to come back more frequently, spend more money on some of those visits than they normally would, give them an incentive to do so, and to refer your business so that you're continuing to grow your list. Email marketing is also great, and it works very similarly to the text marketing program. The return on investment for email marketing is like 4,000%. I mean, you spend a little bit of money and, hopefully that's going to generate a lot of business for you, and it can happen pretty fast. But you got to have a list. You got to do it the right way. You never want to spam. And so it does take discipline, and it takes expertise to make these things happen, but they're low-hanging fruit that every business should be doing.
Yeah, and you said it was a two-part response, Paul. Are there more, or are we good to chat about this? Uh-oh. Well, I will respond. Ken raised some really great points there. Some of the things that stood out to me were finding referral partners, strategic partners, really, really important. Super powerful way to build relationships. Networking, right? Networking with a purpose. It's not about the bagels and coffee or even the business cards you collect. It's about the relationships you build and the referrals that you can send to other people. Some other things Ken talked about about email marketing. One of the other low-hanging fruit that I see as well, he talked about reactivation campaigns. Even just looking at your sales process, it depends on your business, but if you have kind of multiple points of contact before someone usually makes a decision, this is very common in the service industry. You'll see that there's lead nurturing opportunities between each of those steps, and you can create some pretty simple email drip campaigns. Of course, you have to, have the system to do that. But you could even do it manually or have one of your team members do it manually if that's kind of a first step, and it gives you a chance to test it, see how it goes, and then improve upon it. What about you, Paul?
Yeah, it is a two-part answer, but I figured you want to talk about this before I played the other second part. But the one of the things on the email market, because we see this a lot, is, he said, is your list usable? And that's a good point, because if you have a list that's old, email addresses change, you need to cleanse that list. You need to verify email addresses, and you can't, if you have a longer sales cycle, like you said, there's lead nurturing opportunities in there, but you also don't want to abuse it. This past holiday season, I actually unsubscribed from some things that I had signed up for because they were sending me the same email like 3 or 4 times a day, every day.
Wow.
And you start doing that, that's not going to help you. It's going to piss people off, is what it's going to do.
Right.
So you can't abuse it. And I think that's one of the most common things we see with email marketing, but having a once a month newsletter, even twice a month newsletter, I don't think you need more than that. But now if you're in a business that it's high volume, it's something people buy repeatedly over and over, that might be a little different. But you still can't be sending people marketing emails every day or every other day, or even 2 or 3 times a week. I don't think, because it's just, you're going to irritate people.
Yeah. And I think there's so much opportunity there. Ken said it, but I'll say it again. Like, email marketing has one of the, next to text marketing, it's one of the highest return on investments out there. And it's the reason why it is, just in case you hate email as much as we all hate email sometimes, because our inboxes are constantly full and we do get spam. But if you have a list of people that have purchased from you or have opted into you because you offer something of value to them, then you are an invited guest and not a pest, right? So it's an important differentiation that you understand that. Just treat people with respect and make sure that you keep that list fresh. And one of the other things that Ken didn't talk about, but he might in the next segment, so I won't even talk about it. Let's roll his next segment, because I assume it's still an answer to that original question. Is that right, Paul?
Yes.
Okay.
And the other thing is, always have a way for people to opt out or unsubscribe, because if you don't, because in some states it's actually not required.
Yeah.
But if you don't do that, people may just mark it as spam.
Yeah, and if you're in North America and you cross borders, right, you want to make sure that you cover yourself with CAM spam, that you're following those rules in the US, and then Castle rules in Canada, right? They're even more stringent than CAM spam, but it's important because you can actually get a fine. I know governments are really zoning in on businesses that abuse people's emails. And now with text, there's there's a whole movement now from the industry, from a texting standpoint, because they've been pressured by governments in order to get a handle on that spam. There's a bunch of new, not really legislation, but it's internal industry things that will limit how you can text message as a business if you haven't validated and verified your business as a legitimate sender of texts. So,
all right. So here's part 2 of his answer.
All right.
Content marketing, it could be a little bit longer play, but creating content is always a great idea. That content can be on YouTube. It could be blog posts on your website. It could be case studies or things like that are really important to what your ideal customer is looking for, to help them along their buyer's journey to say, you know what, I need to give this business an opportunity. And so content marketing is great there. Social media marketing, obviously, can help you stay top of mind and have visibility, although that's become a lot more challenging in the last 5 or 6 years. Because just because you post on social media doesn't mean that anybody sees it. As a matter of fact, depending on the type of content that you post, you may be practically invisible, but it's a necessary evil. It's showing that your business is current and active and functioning. Just like having a professional website that's up to date and updated on a regular basis. And here's where content marketing comes into play. You don't need to spend massive bucks on a website. You do need to spend the right money on a website. A website investment, there are different models that you can use. You need to understand how they work. But, having a professional website is kind of the prerequisite for doing business in today's world. Even on a business that's driven with referral marketing, if I talk to somebody and they say, oh, yeah, you got to hire these guys, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go check them out on the website. I trust my friends or family or whoever referred me, but I'm going to trust but verify, right? And so if I go look at a website and it's a piece of crap, I may be looking for somebody else. Probably would be. That's just me. I don't think I'm alone in that. Paid advertising. So depending on how much budget you have, you may have to make a decision about, do I invest in a paid advertising strategy? Do I invest in a lead generation strategy driven around email and text marketing and database reactivations? And you might need to seed that even with a little bit of paid advertising to help you grow your list and keep that going. Or do I need to go in and really focus on my organic search engine optimization so that I'm showing up on the Google Maps results and I'm getting opportunities there? You're going to have to make some decisions, and you're going to have a trade-off. And I think every business needs to seek professional help when it comes to this. Otherwise, you're going to waste a lot of money. And look, if you don't have a big marketing budget, let's say it's $500 a month, $1,000 a month, you spend that for 3 or 4 months and you get no results and you don't even see any progress. That's a big hit for your business, right? So you need to have your expectations set properly, and you need to know, what are the right things for your business to do. So I'm a huge fan of this thing that we've created called the offer focused funnel. The offer focused funnel it's a landing page with an incredible offer that's targeted to a very specific audience. It has urgency and scarcity so that people will take fast action. Urgency is it's limited in time availability. Scarcity is maybe there's only 5 of these available. And so I think, having that in place, getting people to opt in, and then nurturing them to make sure that not only did they claim the offer, they're converting to becoming a paying customer. And so you do that once they claim the offer. You send them emails, you send them text messages, you notify the person on your team who's responsible for booking appointments, reservations, appointments, free estimates. It doesn't make any difference. Booking time with your business. And you want to keep nurturing them. And then once they come into your place of business, have a strategy to get them to come back and to get them to buy more. and if you can get them in that second or that third time, you're starting to build habits. And so this offer focused funnel system, it's a system. It's in a box. I mean, it's a combination of what I think are probably some of the most effective small business marketing strategies on a small budget that you can have. And the whole goal is, give people an incredible offer, give them a reason to take advantage of that right away, make sure that they book right away through email and text nurturing, have an automated booking calendar, but also have somebody on your team prepared to follow up with a phone call to say, hey, I see you claimed this offer. Let's get you scheduled. I don't see you on the schedule yet. And when you get them on the schedule, that means that they're that much further down the path of spending money with your business. So those are the things that I would look at. When it comes to paid ad strategies, I think depending on the nature of your business, you should be looking at Google ads, Facebook ads potentially, although Facebook ads are a little squirrely for a lot of businesses. They can be pretty good, especially lifestyle related. And for certain businesses and in certain niches, even Yelp advertising can be a pretty good strategy. But I think it's really critical. Look, we live and breathe this stuff. We work in it every day. We're immersed in it. I have dozens of tactics that I can deploy at any given time for, to match the customer situation and their budget. But But I can't do that without what Paul talked about in terms of having a marketing strategy in place, and knowing how I'm going to be able to move forward, and really, what am I trying to accomplish? Who is my best customer? All of those things are so critically important that, when you have a smaller marketing budget, it means that maybe even more so than ever, you need to have that marketing strategy in place. Even if it's not a complicated one to get started, have a strategy.
Awesome. One of the comments I had written down when Ken was sharing there in his video is he talked about word of mouth in the first segment. And I think one of the things to understand about word of mouth, because word of mouth is fantastic, right? If you can get, the only thing better than we as business owners talking about how great our business is when other people talk about how great our business is. So it's fantastic. And it can skip some of or fast forward some of the buyer's journey. The thing to remember with word of mouth, people use the term word of mouth marketing. What they usually mean, though, by that is that they do absolutely nothing to generate word of mouth. It's just happened organically because they've offered a great product or service, and people have been happy to share about that. That is fantastic, except there are no levers to pull as a business. You cannot grow that type of word of mouth through any activity you as a business owner or your team performs. You can ask for referrals, which is you should be doing anyways. But you cannot, unless you have a proactive word of mouth strategy, which most businesses I've talked to over my career, almost none of them have ever had that. So, as a business owner, be honest with yourself when you talk of word of mouth. If that's what's gotten you to this point and you want to grow your business, it probably won't get you there because it will continue to grow at the exact same pace that you've always experienced it at, right? Just in a natural way. The other thing, I'm really glad Ken brought up content marketing, because content marketing is really about what content are we going to provide people at each of their marketing hourglass stages or buyer's journey stages in order to help them move from one stage to the next stage, and give them the information in whatever format is best serves them, to help them make a good decision. Because that's ultimately what we as business owners are trying to do, because we believe that we are the best choice for them. And so content is, whether it's an email, whether it's an infographic, whether it's a video, right? It's about using the right piece of content in the right way at the right time, and repurposing content that makes sense in order to help people make a smart decision. But content is what you're going to use on your website. It's what you're going to use in your emails, your texts, your brochures, you name it. Like, content is the fuel that's going to make your marketing run. Any thoughts, Paul?
Yeah, I think what's important to understand, we talk about like the buyer journey or the sales and marketing funnel. And it kind of gives the impression, probably unintentionally, that it's a linear path, and it's not. It is a very convoluted path that people take. We tend to think, and probably gonna talk about this in a little bit here, but we tend to think of paid advertising, things like Google Ads, as the bottom of the funnel. And maybe it is, but it could also be someone searching for something and your ad pops up and they've never heard of you before, and they click on that ad just to find out more about your business, but they're not necessarily going to convert from that ad click. So it's not necessarily a waste of money, but it's that ad that gave them the first introduction to your business.
Yeah, and just a point of clarification, because I don't agree with you about the buyer's journey is a convoluted mess now, right? It's a what do you call those books that used to have the choose your own adventure books? Remember those, where at the bottom of the page it would say, hey, if you want John to do this, go to page 54. If you want him to do this, go to page 112, right? We're all researchers by nature now. But what is linear, because that isn't linear, right? Where they have their first touch point and what their second touch point is and what their third touch point is really up to their own behavior. But what is linear is the what we would call the marketing hourglass. Can they? So that's that a person has to know you in order to like you, in order to try you, in order to buy from you, in order to repeat their purchase and refer. So those are almost always perfectly linear, because those can cross a lot of different channels and platforms and marketing strategies and tactics. but that decision making, people can skip a step, but rarely do they. In my experience, they might fast forward a step, meaning, they can jump really quick from the no to the like, and then on to the trust, but rarely do they skip steps. So
Yeah,
I just want to.
they can't trust you or buy from you if they don't know you exist.
Exactly. Yeah. So I thought I just wanted to clarify that, because sometimes, the buyer's journey is more about the particular platform or strategy or tactic, because that's how we as marketers, you know, uh, 10 years ago, that's how we used to think about it. We would map out, this is what my buyer is going to do. These are the exact steps they're going to take. And we are geniuses because we figured this out. And then over time, what we've learned is that that's not what happens, right? But those stages of the marketing hourglass, they're universal. They don't really change, because just as you said, you can't like someone if you don't know them first. So, yeah.
Yeah, and what are they saying now? It's like there's like on average about 13 touch points before they actually make a decision.
Yeah, and
Something like
that used to be 7, right? Like back in the day when I studied marketing, traditional marketing, right? TV advertising, that kind of stuff. They used to say it was 7 touch points before someone made a decision, and now it's grown because we just have far more, self motivated or self directed research that we do. One of the other things I thought was great, and I think Ken mentioned it, was that, and I love it as a quote, because he said something like, "Marketing success doesn't happen by chance or by accident," and I think that's really good, a good reminder, because we hear, especially if you're on any of the social networks and you see the ads that pop up all the time. There are tons and tons and tons of charlatans out there that will say, this is the one thing you have to do, to grow your business, or I did something that was viral, you can do it too. But the chance of doing something like that are so slim. It's like, that it's like the top 2% of people, that make it into a professional sport, right? Even though all of us as kids might have had some ability of some kind, and our parents might have thought we were really good at it. But the same is true with your marketing, that you really need to have a strategy, or you could be blowing your brains out on the wrong things, that will actually get you no success at all. And so you need to have a plan, and don't trust in chance or serendipity, that just because you chose to do something, because it was easy, is going to produce the results that you're hoping for. All right, Paul. Ken shared, that some of the smaller budget strategies, in his videos, that we can employ. What are some of the marketing activities or marketing myths that we should avoid?
Yeah, we're already at 45 minutes here, so I'm going to go through these fairly quick.
All right.
Traditional advertising. If you have a small budget, radio and TV is not for you. Okay, it's just not, and it's like, goes back to basically a shotgun approach. You might be able to limit it to certain areas, but it's a large area, so a lot of those people may not even have any need for your product or service. So you can't really target it. And overspending on advertising, you and me talked about this a little bit before the podcast, that things like Google ads, they're great. And it's definitely something that you should be doing or looking at doing, but it has gotten really expensive. The cost per click has gone up, conversion rates have gone down, and it's just, and the other thing, and Google has kind of screwed small business owners, I think, because everything is so algorithmically driven that if you have a small budget, Google just can't learn, and That's what it does. It uses artificial intelligence to learn or attempt to learn who is most likely to convert. And if you have a small budget, it just doesn't have enough data. So that, that's kind of puts small business at a disadvantage. But that being said, it's not something you can ignore. And ignoring your target audience, this goes back to being able to target your marketing efforts. If you put in high-end expensive windows, your target audience is probably not somebody making $30,000 a year. They just can't afford what you do. So you have to know who your target audience is. Not tracking what you're doing. Not using some kind of analytics software. Google Analytics is free. You have to know how to use it, and GA4 is kind of a mess still, which is what they force everyone into. But yeah, it's better than nothing. And relying completely on organic reach. If you're established and you have a lot of good content on your website and you have hub pages and everything's done correctly, you might be able to get away with that. But if you're not that established or your business isn't that mature, it's not going to work for you. You're going to have to supplement that with some kind of advertising. And like Ken said, for lifestyle type businesses, Facebook might be good, but it's Facebook loves shutting down people's ads account. I don't get it, but they love shutting down accounts. And focusing completely on short-term gains. And this is where SEO is a long-term play, so you're probably going to have to supplement that with something. And this is something you mentioned, that the self-anointed experts that, oh, I did this and it went viral, and well, good for you. But that's probably not going to work for most people. So, and like we talked about earlier, just because someone's 23, 24 years old doesn't mean they understand how to market on social media. Just because they can turn a computer on doesn't mean they know what they're doing.
Yeah. The one thing I like to say about that is, about the experts you let into your world is, what voices are you listening to, right? Are they strategic voices, or are they kind of hoopla, like rah, chase after this shiny object voice? And it's the strategic voices that you should be listening to, because those are the ones that understand the bigger picture and want to help you achieve success. Great points, Paul. I mean, all of those are myths or minefields that we all have to avoid. The one about paid advertising, I always find it really interesting, is that when we get into a discussion with a client and say they have $500 of ad spend, and that doesn't include the ad management, but say they have $500 that they're able to put towards a monthly ad spend budget. Like if there's 31 days within that month, that's $16 a day. Like when you think about that in that way, which is what we as the marketers that manage ad accounts have to do. But consider, you're investing $16 a day. And if the cost, not per click, like the cost per click might be $1 or $2 or $4, depending on the keyword and the industry you're in. But if the cost per conversion is, $30, $50, $70, even more than that, your budget will be used up very, very quickly on a minimal number of conversions. And so if that's not going to make mathematical sense, then you need to look elsewhere.
Yeah, if your cost, let's say your budget is $15 a day, just to make the math easy, and your cost per click is $5, which there's not a whole lot of businesses that are going to get $5 a click. I mean, it depends. You're like home service business, it's gotten more and more competitive, so the cost per click has gone up. That's 3 potential clicks a day, and that's just not going to be enough to get a decent cost per conversion, and it's not going to be enough for Google to gather the data it needs to optimize.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of people don't realize too that a click does not equal a sale. A conversion does not equal a sale. So even if you get those 5 clicks per day, resulting, say, in 1 conversion a week, if you can't convert that person in a sale, once you get a phone call or a lead, then, you gotta understand your own stats and metrics. Yeah.
Yeah, just because they fill out a form or you get them on the phone doesn't mean it's going to result in a sale.
That's right. Yep. I think we have time for one more from Ken, depending on how long his video is, Paul. I think this is good. We alluded to it earlier on about reinvesting your revenue. So as marketing helps your business grow, you need to have a longer vision that as it helps me grow and I gain more revenue, I'm going to reinvest some of that revenue back into my marketing in order to raise the results some more. Because if you're getting a return on investment from your marketing that's good, like 2 times, 5 times, whatever it is, it only makes sense to start to reinvest that back into your business. So the question I asked Ken is, how can a business reinvest revenue from their initial marketing efforts into bigger and better marketing campaigns?
Okay, so how can a business reinvest revenue from that initial set of marketing efforts to turn it into bigger and better marketing campaigns? Well, first of all, like we've talked about, you got to have a marketing plan. And you need to be measuring and tracking to the best you can. In smaller budgets, it gets harder to do, honestly. And that's why I'm a fan of some of the things that I mentioned before, text marketing, database reactivations. Those are pretty easy to email marketing to get a strong return on investment measure and get an idea of how well that's generating business for you. Some of the other things start to get a little bit more complicated in terms of measuring that return on investment. But I think, your mindset needs to be, if I come in and I gain $50,000 worth of new revenue in a quarter, and my return on investment is 20%, 30%, 50%, whatever it might be, how much of that am I going to take and reinvest in the growth of my business? And what set of tactics are in alignment with the marketing strategy and the vision and the direction that I want to take and grow my business? And so I think, being committed to that and focusing on that bootstrapping, I think is a really important idea. Look at the best performing campaigns. Where are you getting the most bang for the buck? And are you getting the right customers for that? You might be spending money. And initially, look, I've been there. I started a business. I get it. I remember this painfully because it took a while for my business to kind of settle in. I started in a difficult economy. So you need to think about, what you try different things. Oh, I tried that. Yeah, it didn't work out so well. I made an investment over here. Wow. Yeah. When I look at the results here, it's like, that's fantastic. I think doubling down on what's being successful is a really smart idea. So if you've got something that's working really well for you, maybe you probably should be making a bigger investment in it. But you also want to diversify. You don't want to be over reliant on any one given source, because if that source dries up, your business could be in trouble. Just think about, Facebook ads a couple of years ago when Apple implemented their new privacy policies. Facebook ad performances tanked. And if your business was reliant purely on Facebook ads for your marketing and advertising, and those leads dried up, I bet your business was in a world of hurt. And so I don't like to put all my eggs in one basket. I think diversification, whether it's a financial portfolio or a marketing portfolio, is really a good idea. You want to continue to optimize the performance of your marketing strategies. Don't just flip them on and let them run and think that everything's going to work out fine 6 months, a year, 2 months, even down the road. And if you're in the mode of creating content, which, by the way, every business is, whether you realize it or not. Are you using it and using that content in a way that's beneficial to help your business from a marketing perspective? Probably not, at least not to the extent that you could be. But if you are creating content, you're writing blog posts, you're doing video content, you're doing social media, repurpose that content and take advantage of it. Being a guest on a podcast, fantastic way to go. Even if your business doesn't need to have its own podcast, being a guest on a podcast is a really great thing to do. And don't forget about customer retention, because it's really hard to continue that upward growth path if you're not retaining your customer base. And so that's why I love text marketing and email marketing, because and even to a degree, social media marketing, because you're staying top of mind and giving people a reason to come back and re-engage with your business and spend money with your business. So I think those things are really critical. I think, I just think this has to be a plan. I think every business needs to have this bootstrap mentality if you don't have a big marketing budget, and really have a plan to move forward.
And Paul, as we wrap up, because we're coming up to the top of the hour, Ken talked about it. I've talked about it. You've talked about it. The importance of having a plan and knowing what activities you're going to do on a shoestring budget. But just like, when you're in a boat or a plane, you need to course correct sometimes on that journey. How can a small business owner ensure they don't go off track?
Well, they need to look at things monthly, quarterly, and annually. And like you had talked about this a little bit, that look at, if you have you start out with a strategy and then you put tactics in place, and then what results did you get from this campaign? And if they were good, then like Ken said, double down on that. And if they weren't, that's kind of the issue with, when you first, if you're starting out your small business and you never really had a marketing plan, you probably don't know what's going to work and what's not going to work. You're going to have to try a few things, and then you're going to have to go back and look and see what worked and what didn't. And you should do that monthly, quarterly, and annually, like you talked earlier about year over year. But yeah, you have to track these things. You have to look at what's working, what's not working. And if something's not working, try something else,
Yeah, and it's almost like a circle of influence in a way, or a circle of focus that, on a monthly basis, you're looking at the activities you're doing and the results they're producing, right? On a small level. And then on the quarterly level, you're really reevaluating, like, are these things working? Does this investment continue to make sense? Or is it time to either double down or reinvest in a different way? And you want to be looking at it from key performance indicators, like what at the beginning of our plan, we said, this is our main goal. These are the big key performance indicators, like sales or like leads or appointments set or whatever it is. And then working back from there. And then in the annual marketing plan, I would say, man, that's where you really take a step back and strategically look at, has the marketplace changed? Have some of these strategies and tactics adjusted? Are there new things that are available now that weren't available when we first created the plan? And should we be exploring those? And could those displace some of the things that we're investing in already? But any parting thoughts on this topic, Paul?
Ken has one.
Oh, okay. Yeah, in regard to any last thoughts about something that I haven't really talked about, it's like, I would say this. Make sure that if you are working with somebody who has marketing strategy and is just not a marketing vendor, there are so many people who will want to sell you a solution and try to fit you in their box and not take into consideration what's best for your business. And look, maybe getting started, maybe in some cases that might be a good way to go. But I just find way too many times when you have to go that route, or when you decide to go that route, you're pinned in, you're working and you're shaping your business around somebody else's ideas, but not necessarily what's the right thing and the best thing for your business. Don't, a lot of people make a decision. It's like, oh yeah, everybody's doing this. I guess I better sign up for this, or hire this company or whatever. It may not be the right thing to do. So I think it's critical that whoever you're going to be working with, more so for small businesses that with small budgets, maybe than some of the bigger businesses, is you've got to work with somebody who is a marketing strategist, who has the breadth and depth of understanding, even if they don't have all the solutions that they do themselves. If they can hook you up with a trusted set of vendors or a trusted set of solutions, I think that's critical.
Yeah, great point. Any parting thoughts from you, Paul?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, I think we've done this topic good justice. So if you're a small business owner and you have a small marketing budget or no budget at all, hopefully this topic has convinced you that you should have a marketing budget. Start where you're able from a budgetary standpoint and grow from there. Let your marketing success be reinvested back into your business, and you'll continue to grow. So start with a plan, work the plan, and there you go. So I think this is a good place to wrap up. I know we're at the top of the hour. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Ken, for pre-recording this so that you could be with us today. And thank you to our audience. We really appreciate you and your involvement. If there are topics that you would like us to talk about, please drop us a line. We would love to hear about those, and we'd love to cover them. And if you would be so kind as to share this with other business owners that you think would find this of value, that would be fantastic. And until next week, keep calm and market on.